Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dig into interesting sources, pull out the key info, and get you quickly up to speed. Today we're tackling something almost everyone goes through: learning how to drive.
Yep.
Well, it's a big one. Often exciting, maybe a little terrifying.
Definitely a mix.
Yeah. And it's way more than just, handling a car. It's about freedom, independence, communicating in a whole new way, and honestly, it's a pretty intense language lesson too. So for this deep dive, we've got some great stuff. There's this pretty wild dialogue from a driving lesson that goes off the rails.
Oh, I remember that one. Eventful is putting it mildly.
Right. And then we got the essential vocabulary, the actual words you need. Plus, we'll look at why learning this skill is about so much more than just getting around.
Exactly. Our goal here is to pull out the practical stuff, the maybe surprising bits, and especially focus on how learning to drive is this unique way to understand and use English in very real situations.
Yeah.
Driving itself kind of becomes the classroom.
Okay, let's jump in. So this first source, this driving lesson transcript, wow. It involves a student, Finney Polly, and their instructor. And it starts normally enough, right? Instructors trying to cover the basics.
Yeah, like adjust your seat, check your mirrors, hands on the wheel, the usual stuff.
But Finney, not having it,
Yeah.
super impatient, says something like, yeah, heard it a million times, let's just go.
Uh-huh. You can feel the instructor sighing already.
Totally. So the instructor gives in, they start moving, and Finney's immediately like, yes, awesome, can we put some music on?
Oh, boy. And the instructor, rightly, is like, no music, eyes on the road, because, there's a red light coming up.
Exactly. Finney's supposed to hit the brakes, but something goes wrong. Maybe forgets which pedal, because the instructor just starts shouting.
Yeah, it gets frantic. What are you doing? Brakes! The brakes! Watch out for those people! Sidewalk! Get off the sidewalk! It sounds completely chaotic.
Pure chaos. And Finney's reaction just says, oh, this is just like playing video games.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right as the police sirens start wailing.
Perfect timing. Instructor yells, police! Pull over! And Finney, totally leaning into the video game vibe, shouts, they'll never take me alive.
What a first lesson. It's funny, but it really captures that feeling when you're learning something new and high stakes. The panic, the adrenaline.
And that video game comment is interesting, right? Because you mentioned one of our sources actually talks about a real case.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
A 7-year-old kid took his dad's car, led police on a chase, and apparently drove pretty well.
Yeah.
And part of how he learned, video game simulators.
No way. A 7-year-old.
Yep. It sounds crazy, but it suggests that some skills, even complex ones like driving, can be picked up in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
That virtual practice actually counted for something.
That is wild. Makes you think about your own learning experiences, doesn't it? That feeling of, jumping in the deep end.
Absolutely. That mix of nerves and excitement. Sometimes you just react. Which actually leads us nicely into the specific language you need when you're not relying on video game instincts.
Yeah. Right. This is where the sources give us that practical language takeaway. Let's start with the basics. The steering wheel.
Obvious? Maybe. But the key verb is to steer. You use the wheel to steer the car left or right. It connects the object and the action perfectly.
Good point. And then seeing behind you, you've got mirrors.
Right. The main one inside is the rear view mirror. Rear just meaning back or behind, lets you see directly back.
And then the ones on the doors.
Those are the side view mirrors. They give you that wider angle, seeing beside you and in your blind spots, that you still need to check those. Crucial for changing lanes, parking, everything really.
Okay, so steering, mirrors. Now, things get a bit more complex if you're learning manual or stick shift. There's the clutch.
Ah, yes, the third pedal. On the far left, in most places, you press it down with your foot whenever you need to change gears. It basically disconnects the engine from the wheels for a moment.
And that action of changing gears, specifically starting off.
That's when you shift into first gear. You press the clutch, move the gear stick from neutral N, usually into the 1 position. That's your lowest gear. Gets the car moving from a stop. Then you go up through the gears, second, third, and so on.
It's a very physical sequence tied to those specific words.
Exactly. And, you mentioned manual versus automatic. Our sources point out that difference between, say, the U.S. and Europe.
Yeah, automatics are super common in the States, but manuals are still really prevalent in Europe. Why is that?
Couple reasons, usually. Manuals can be a bit more fuel efficient, and gas is generally pricier in Europe. Plus, they can be simpler and cheaper to fix if something goes wrong.
Makes sense.
And there's a learning advantage, too. If you learn on a manual, you can drive basically anything. Learn only on an automatic, and a manual car is off limits. So these aren't just words on a page. They're actions you learn physically. They get locked into muscle memory.
Okay, so beyond single words, the sources also flag some common phrases. Like when you first get in, you don't usually say, turn on the car.
Right. You say start the car or start the engine. It's
Yeah.
just the standard phrase.
Yeah.
And to turn it off, you'd stop the car or stop the engine.
Little nuances like that are everywhere in language, aren't they?
They really are. And remember Finney's instructor saying, we've been through this a million times.
Huh? Yeah. Clearly not literally a million.
Exactly. It's hyperbole, exaggeration for effect just means many, many times. You hear it all the time when people are frustrated or just emphasizing repetition. I've told you that a million times. Or we've seen that movie a million times.
Gotcha. Okay, another key phrase from that scene, pull over.
Crucial one. It means slow down and stop the car at the side of the road. A police officer might signal for you to pull over.
Or you might need to do it yourself, right? Like if your phone rings and you don't have hands free.
Yeah, absolutely. Safety first. You pull over to take the call. Or, the classic road trip scenario. Can you pull over at the next rest stop? Someone needs the restroom.
Been there. And the last phrase from Finney's dramatic exit, they'll never take me alive.
Pure drama. Definitely not literal, thankfully. It's what someone says, usually in movies or books, when they're escaping the law. Means they'd rather die or stay free than be caught. It shows how everyday phrases can carry this extra layer of, cinematic meaning.
Okay, so pulling back a bit, what's the bigger picture here? Why does learning to drive matter beyond just the practical skill?
Well, the sources really frame it as this unique path to independence, practical skills, yes, but also this really deep language learning.
So the why learn part goes beyond just freedom.
It does. Think about it. Every sign you read, every instruction you follow, every signal you give, it's communication. You're not just controlling a machine, you're participating in a system, a language of the road.
And it's often driven by real need, right? Getting kids to school, commuting to work or uni, visiting clients.
Exactly. That practical necessity creates this urgency for understanding and using the language correctly. It directly impacts your life. So the motivation is really high.
Makes sense. So you decide to learn. It's probably a mix of excitement and nerves, like we said. What are the first steps?
Typically, there's preparation, age requirements, getting a learner's permit, often involves a written test.
Ah, the theory test.
Right. And studying for that is interesting because you're not just learning traffic laws, you're actively learning key English vocabulary.
Like what kind of words?
Words like yield, intersection, speed limit, right of way. These aren't just driving terms. They're common English words used in a very specific rule-based context. It's like your first language lesson baked right into the process.
And then the actual learning driving school versus learning with family.
Both have pros and cons. A professional school gives you structured lessons, textbooks maybe, formal instruction, lots of exposure to the right terms. Learning with family or friends can be more relaxed, but you still need to make sure you're learning the correct phrases, especially for the actual driving test.
So let's talk about that in-car learning. It sounds incredibly immersive. You've got the physical actions, the rules, the language, all happening at once.
It really is. And emotions play a big role. Feeling nervous, worrying about mistakes, totally normal. Good instructors know this.
They use phrases like, take a deep breath, or you're doing fine.
Exactly. Which is not only reassuring for the driving, but also models empathetic communication. It's subtle language practice right there.
And you start seeing your surroundings differently too, don't you?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Suddenly, signs, signals, road markings, crosswalks, other cars, they all have meaning. You can much more aware. Every sign is a word or symbol. Every instruction is a rule. The whole environment becomes like a textbook you're living in.
Wow. So break down that process a bit more. How does the language connect to the physical learning?
Well, it starts with the absolute basics, adjusting the seat, the mirrors, putting on the seatbelt, hands on the wheel. The instructor uses phrases like adjust your seat, check your mirrors, press the brake gently. You hear the words, you do the action, it links them directly.
Okay, so simple commands first, then more complex stuff.
Right. Starting the car, moving off, stopping smoothly, turning corners. That's when you get instructions like check your blind spot, signal before turning, keep to the right. You have to listen, understand, and react in real time. It's intense listening practice.
And you do these things over and over.
Repetition is key. Stopping at signs, making turns, parking. You do it again and again. That builds driving confidence, sure, but it also makes the language feel familiar, almost automatic. That word yield goes from being something you studied to something you just react to.
What about mistakes? Everyone makes them.
Of course. And that's another learning opportunity. Instructors use simple, clear language. Try to slow down sooner next time, or don't forget to look over your shoulder. It's corrective feedback that teaches better driving and better communication skills. It's direct, helpful language.
And you usually progress from quiet areas to busier roads.
Yeah, that's typical. Start in a parking lot or empty street, then move into light traffic, then eventually busier roads and maybe highways.
Mm.
Each step builds calmness, quick thinking, and exposes you to more real-world English. More signs, maybe radio traffic reports, conversation about navigating.
It also seems like safety rules are deeply tied to vocabulary.
Absolutely. Understanding always stop completely at a stop sign isn't just a rule. It involves understanding always and completely. Learning about safety brings in words like hazard, distance, reaction time, emergency brake. Safety and language go hand in hand.
So if you tie it all together, learning to drive is this whole package deal.
It really is. It's multisensory, it's practical, it builds confidence, not just behind the wheel, but in using and understanding English in situations where it really matters. It's quite a powerful journey.
So wrapping up, it's clear learning to drive is about so much more than just getting a license. It's mastering a machine, yes, but also navigating this whole language system, building practical life skills, and boosting your confidence along the way.
hmm And understanding that process, even if you already drive, can help you communicate more clearly in lots of situations, not just on the road.
Definitely. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If learning to drive teaches us so much about anticipation, reaction, clear communication on the road, how might that driver's mindset, that skill of taking in information, adapting quickly, communicating effectively, apply elsewhere? How can we use it to navigate the complex roads of information and new skills we face every day?